Welcome to The Optimized Geek, a podcast full of secret knowledge that will enable you to reboot your life. Ready to improve your health, wealth, partner intimacy, peer group, spirit, career, business, and more? Then buckle up. Here's your host, Stephan Spencer, author, speaker, SEO expert, and a quintessential geek who has been through his own incredible transformation. You wouldn't even recognize him 5 years ago.
I think we'd all like to believe that we are the masters of our own psychology, but oftentimes that's the furthest thing from the truth. It's the bad patterns and habits. It's the limiting beliefs. It's the addictions that drive the bus. We want to quit smoking. We want to lose the weight. We want to shed the irrational fears that we have, and yet we can't. Something's getting in the way. We're getting triggered. We're not believing in ourselves. We're ending up with chronic illnesses. Well, there is a solution. There's a way to break through. And you're going to learn all about it in this episode number 164. It's called hypnotherapy, and there's a form in particular that you're going to learn about called rapid transformational therapy, RTT. It's my great pleasure to have on the show today Marisa, who is the creator of RTT. She's also a world-renowned speaker and a best-selling author. She has nearly 3 decades of experience as a therapist, and she's been named Best British Therapist by Men's Health magazine. Her celebrity clients have included rock stars, CEOs, Olympic athletes, royalty, and Oscar-winning actors. Marisa, it's great to have you on the show.
It's wonderful to be on the show. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Of course. I mean, it's a great pleasure and privilege to have you on and talking about rapid transformational therapy and just more generally hypnotherapy as well. Before we start talking about RTT, let's define for our listeners what is hypnotherapy and why should they do that over just regular therapy?
Well, hypnotherapy is actually the founder of all psychotherapy. And hypnotherapy is, in my opinion, the most effective way to have any kind of therapy, because therapy is really about changing behavior, understanding yourself and changing behaviors. But I'm a great believer that you can't change what you don't understand. So if you go to a conventional therapist or counselor, you never really get to that level of deep, profound understanding that you'll get in hypnotherapy in one session. We live in a fast world, and people are no longer willing to go and spend a year talking about a symptom when they can use the technique that can show them the cause of the symptom and simultaneously remove it. I mean, I don't understand why everybody would want to do that. Who's going to go to a dentist and say, can I come in every day and talk about the infection in my gum? The dentist goes, no, if we don't get rid of it, it's going to spread. So let's get rid of it. Mm-hmm. My therapy and most hypnotherapy is about finding out why you do something and simultaneously stopping it, whereas conventional therapy is really, let's talk about it for a long time with the idea that we might find out why you do it and we might stop it, but we might not.
So how does that work if I can't just answer the question to myself? Like, I wonder, okay, let me give you a specific example. I have some nerve pain in my left index finger, and I would love to know why this is happening. Maybe on the subconscious level or unconscious level, there's some sort of reason, a spiritual reason. I don't know. I haven't figured it out. And why would hypnotherapy or RTT more specifically access the reason why I am having that particular pain versus me just kind of introspectively asking myself?
That's a great question. First of all, the answers are all stored in the subconscious mind, which many of us don't know how to access. So we have logical behavior and emotional behavior. And here's the rule of the mind. Emotion will beat logic every time. So let's imagine you have something else. You say, I really want to be a speaker, but every time I go to speak, I just lose it. I get bright red, my mind goes blank, and I mess it up. Or I really want to write a book, and I've written it, but I just can't send it out to a publisher. Or I really want to lose weight, and I've done Slim Fast, and I've had my jaw wired, and I've done everything, gone to boot camp, but I always gain the weight back. These are logical behaviors that can't be fixed with logic. But in hypnosis, you don't ask a question. You say, look, here's a fact. Nobody is born with a fear of being looked at, because that's a baby's first experience. No one is born unable to leave donuts, because all babies leave food. and no one is born with a fear of being rejected. So it's very clear that this is an acquired behavior. And what hypnosis does, instead of spending hours talking about it, how do you feel when you can't speak on stage? How do you feel when you eat the donut? Are you feeling that feeling in your mouth or your stomach or your brain? I don't do any of that. So I'm going to count to 5, and you'll be back at a scene that is all to do with why and how and where. And like magic, because it is quite magical. Even after 30 years, I still find it so amazing when people go back and go, oh, I'm 5 years old. I just tried to read in class and I got the word wrong and everyone laughed at me. And I said to myself, I'm never going to draw attention to myself again. Or, oh, I'm 6 years old and my dad shuts me in a cupboard every time I leave food on my plate. And I realize now that I've just been trained to eat everything without thinking about it. Or I'm not allowed to have cake. And I think to myself, when I'm old, I'm going to have as much cake as I want. So what hypnosis does so beautifully, and what RTT does even more beautifully, is take a client back and say, look at these scenes. And I don't do it for them, I do it with them. You see, most of us walk around and go, I don't know why I can't lose weight. I guess I'm just messed up. I don't know why I ruin all my relationships or can't seem to pursue the job of my dreams. I guess I'm just damaged. When you can say, oh, wow, I know why. I can see so clearly that is because of that. And I never need to do that again. It just changes people's lives in the most profound way. And we have something which I'm immensely proud of called role, function, purpose of an illness. And what that means is in hypnosis, it sounds a bit woo-woo, but it's profound. You ask the unconscious mind, what is the role, the function, the purpose of this illness? And it will always come up with stuff. So I work with people with migraines, dermatitis, eczema. I'll give you an example. I worked with a girl who had the most crippling migraines you can imagine, of such severity that she couldn't work at all. And she was saying that when she was younger, her father wanted to be a lawyer just like him. He would really push her. And she always felt a disappointment. And when she got the headaches, he began to go, oh, my daughter, she could have been like me, but, oh, she gets these terrible headaches and now she can't work. And so they had a role, function, purpose. People will say, when I got eczema, my mum put all the cream on. I actually felt, well, she must love me. Look at the effort she's going to. And so when someone has something going on in their finger and they're going, I want to be a guitarist, or I want to write, but I've got this constant repetitive strain injury and I can't do it, that's because at some level they've said to themselves, oh my God, imagine if it was a failure. Imagine if I wrote that book and no one loved it. Imagine if I got guitar lessons and never made it. That's actually worse than never trying, because if you never tried and go, well, I coulda, woulda, shoulda, but I never put the work in. When you put the work in and it fails, then it's a belief that would be a million times worse. It wouldn't be, actually, because you'd have learned something. But role, function, purpose of an illness, it's taking the medical world by storm. There's so many doctors who say, wow, every doctor should be asking our clients this. I was teaching last month, the whole group of doctors, what I do, and they were going, well, I know, it's so interesting. Every illness you're working with on stage is an autoimmune disease, and it's so interesting what comes up.
Wow. This is really amazing. So this role, function, purpose, is that something that you came up with? Is that part of RTT?
Yeah. Most of RTT is stuff that I created. Over a 30-year period of working with clients, some very interesting clients too, it doesn't take long at all to realize, oh, I work with so many obese women in particular, and infertile women too, who would spend all of their money on treatments that never worked. Because one of the rules of the mind is that emotion will defeat logic. And so I decided to find out what emotion was going on behind their issues. I'll give you a really good example. I was doing this with a group of doctors. I was working with a girl who'd created a chronic illness that no doctor could fix. And she said that when she was 9, her mother was diagnosed with breast cancer. When she was 17, her mother died. And she said, but I always knew an illness would come and get me, and there's nothing you can do about it because that's what happened to my mum. And then I got this chronic Crohn's disease. But my dad's family have that. And it was so weird that the father wasn't in her life. The mother died. She was all alone. And she created the illness that his family had. Get them to kind of almost identify with her. But the doctor said, I never thought that when children watch a parent getting progressively ill, they create a belief when illness comes, there's nothing you can do about it. You're helpless in the face of illness. And it's so important to empower people to know that that isn't true and never has to be true.
So what you're saying is that we create disease in our mind, even though this could be something that is hereditary genetic predisposition. The fact that it expresses itself is because our mind, our subconscious mind, is choosing to express that illness or disease in a way to help us, right?
Yeah. And we absolutely learn what we live. So if you're a child living with a mother who says, I've got my period and it's agony and I've got the cramping, as opposed to a mother who says, I'm off to play tennis now and periods don't stop me, most women will look at how their mother reacts to that time of month and have the same reaction, even if they're adopted. When I work with infertile women, they so often will go back to a mother talking about the birth and how awful it was and how they nearly died and the pain went on for 5 days and they bled non-stop. And the child will think, I don't want to go through that. And we're not really aware, and we should be, that even what you say when you have your baby on the hip will influence babies. And then beyond that, you'll have people who say, we're just depressed. My mother was depressed. My great-grandmother killed herself with depression. And so when the kids have it, they go, you've got the depression, it's the gene, or we've got the alcoholic gene. And we allow people to believe this. And while genetics play a part, what really plays the biggest part is upbringing. And children who are brought up with depressed mothers see it as inevitable, which is a great shame, because all the studies that now say, you've got this chemical imbalance in your brain, they're not flawed studies. They are non-existent studies. There's no way any doctor can test for chemical imbalance in the brain. And I work with many doctors, and recently they were telling me, 70% of people who come into ER have problems we can't really fix because they have an emotional basis: the migraine, the stomach aches, the irritable bowel, the panic attacks, the anxiety, the depression, even things like hypertension, the flare-ups, the acne, the skin breakouts. They're real symptoms, but they're caused by an emotion. And I see that over and over again and have an extraordinary ability to get clients to stop being depressed, because they're often more repressed than depressed. They're often more suppressed than they are depressed, but they buy in very early to the belief that, I've got this illness and I can't do anything about it, which is very disempowering, rather than a belief that, I have got an illness, but I can get over it, because the mind has the ability to not only create symptoms, but also get rid of them, especially symptoms that are linked to the nervous system, like skin conditions and headaches and so many illnesses we see in the Western world that have a basis in stress and tension and actually deep unhappiness.
So what you're saying is that a lot of the disease that we're experiencing is psychosomatic.
Yeah. It's psychosomatic makes people think they imagine it. It's not imaginary. Its cause is based on an emotion, so the mind will create any symptom. For instance, if you're really, really unhappy and someone gives you a tiny dose of poison, you'll react as if you're poisoned. If you're deeply, madly in love and you're given a higher dose of that poison, it won't have any impact on you whatsoever, because when you're in love, your immune system is stronger, your digestion is better, everything in your body works better, because our cells listen to our thinking. So I have to be careful with the word psychosomatic, because people think we're saying you're inventing your symptoms. The symptoms are real, whether you have a headache that's caused because you banged your head or because you're deeply depressed. The headache feels the same and the symptoms are the same, but one's got a real physical cause and one's got an emotional cause.
Wow. So a chemical imbalance, which is let's say causing, so we think, depression is actually being created by our subconscious mind, thinking that maybe we're saving ourselves from facing some sort of uncomfortable situation, that we said, oh, I'd rather die than speak on stage.
Yeah.
And then we got a speaking engagement coming up, and boom, we end up with some sort of psychosomatic illness.
Exactly. You see, people think your mind's job is to make you happy. Unfortunately, it really isn't. Your mind's job is to keep you alive on the planet against what were once not actually great odds. And so the only way your mind can work out what's going on with you is by the way you talk to yourself. And when you go, this commute is killing me, my boss is killing me, this kid is making me want to die, I'm going insane with this demanding baby, or my children are a nightmare, or my customers just make me want to kill myself, none of which we mean for a minute. But when your mind hears your job is killing you, this commute makes you want to die, you'll go insane if you have to deal with a customer like that again. Your mind's job, which is to keep you alive, starts to come up with ways of getting away with what you keep telling it is killing you. Usually it's your job. And even to being able to say, well, my job is demanding and some of my clients are difficult. My boss can be very taxing at times, but I have amazing coping skills and it doesn't affect me every minute of every day, will make your brain go, oh, I see, you can deal with this. But when you say, I'd rather die than give a speech, I'd rather kill myself than present a meeting, I'll die if it goes wrong, it's a nightmare trying to, lead this team. We tend to use these very powerful words, and our mind's job is to do what it thinks we want. And your mind's got a job, get you away from that event you've said you don't want. That's your mind's job. Your job is to communicate so much better with your mind, and then you get whatever you want. I mean, we've all done that. We've all said, okay, this weekend I'm going to write a business plan or design a website or work on my speech or write a book. And as the weekend comes, you go, oh, this is so boring, and I could be out in the bar with my friends. And then we find we'll tidy up our sock drawer and straighten out the cutlery and do anything rather than the job, because we told our mind I didn't want to do it. But when you go, no, I want to do it, it's entirely different. And so I'm really surprised that schools don't teach how to dialogue with yourself, because once you learn how to do that, the results you get are extraordinary and out of all proportion to the effort required to just communicate with yourself in a better way.
So how do you do that? How do you dialogue with yourself? I mean, are you even able to hypnotize yourself?
You don't have to hypnotize yourself. One of the rules of the mind, and it's a very important rule, is the way we think and feel about anything is down to two things: the pictures we make in our head and the words we say to ourselves. And if you can just take control of the words, then the pictures tend to follow. So here's an example. You've got to work at the weekend. You've got to do your accounts. And you go, oh, I've got to do my accounts. I'd rather do anything than do my accounts. I hate doing my accounts. And now you notice you're binging on Netflix and not doing the accounts and getting really stressed. But you're telling yourself, I do not want to do my accounts. When you go, right, I want to do my accounts, but I love doing my accounts. There's nowhere I'd rather be right now than doing my accounts. And when I've done them, I'm going to go out and celebrate. I'm going to reward myself with something from doing my accounts. Your mind is very clear. You want to do your accounts. And you can lie to your mind. I call it lie, cheat, and steal. And I really learned this when I was teaching a group of very overweight celebrities to take the action that would make them slimmer. And they would go, oh, no, it's not fair that I can't eat cake. And why shouldn't I have whatever I want? And I hate exercise. And so if I took them running or working out, they'd immediately go, I don't like this, and it hurts my legs, and it's so boring. And I took them to train with Marines. And of course, when Marines have to run through snow and ice and sleet and mud, they don't go, oh, this hurts. They sing, bring it on. I don't care. I love it. And so if you're doing 100 sit-ups, don't go, oh, it's so painful. You've got to go, I love it, love it, love it, even if it's not true, because your mind really doesn't care if what you tell it is true or false or good or bad or healthy or unhealthy. It lets it in, so you might as well tell it great things. I mean, here's a silly example. If you were looking right now at a big burger, you're not going to react to the burger. You're going to react to the pictures you make. If you're hungry, you go, oh, look at that burger and all the juices coming out. But if you're a Hindu, you go, oh, that's disgusting. That's a sacred cow. You shouldn't eat a sacred cow. If you're a vegan, you go, that's awful because you're eating a living creature. And if you're a bodybuilder, you go, that's great. All that lean protein will really help me build muscle. So we don't react to a thing. It's like a needle, someone having Botox, someone having life-saving surgery, someone in immense pain. We react differently in each case to a needle. What we react to is the pictures we make in our head and the words we say to ourselves. And the great news is you can change the pictures and words at any time. And one of the best ways to dialogue with your mind is to do this one sentence, to say, I've chosen to do this and I've chosen to feel great about it. I've chosen to work all weekend on my website and I feel great that I'm getting to build my own business. I've chosen to eat an apple instead of a cake and I feel great because I'm choosing to have the body I want. I've chosen to go out and talk to people and to feel great about it because I've chosen to be more social. You see, you can choose to be negative or positive. You can choose to go, no, people don't like me. I can't speak to them all. Of course they like me. Who wouldn't like me? I can speak to anyone. You do have free will to choose, but what you can't choose is what you do to your body and how much illness you create when you go into the negative.
Yeah, and it's like you're fighting with yourself. Your conscious mind is saying one thing, your subconscious is taking the meaning differently or is trying to protect you based on something that happened in the past, and you're fighting with yourself.
And the subconscious always wins. That, I see so many people who want love. I mean, everybody wants love. Love is a wonderful thing. Why wouldn't you want love? But if you begin by saying, I die if this relationship doesn't work out. I never got over that last person. I'd rather be on my own for the rest of my life than go through that heartache again. Or, well, my dad left when I was 2, so clearly I'm not lovable. If my own parents didn't love me, how could anyone else? And you're telling your mind very clearly that you do not want love. And as weird as that may sound, because we all want love, when you meet someone that offers you love, you'll reject them. You'll act in a difficult way or a clingy way or a needy way, because every word you say forms a blueprint, and your mind and body must act to meet that blueprint, even if it's a terrible blueprint. And when you can go, wow, every word I'm saying is a blueprint I'm moving towards, you get to see that why not say, well, I can find love. I'm lovable. Everyone's lovable. I've got unique skills. I've got a good heart. I'm a good person. There is someone in the world who can love me and be loved by me, and it'll be amazing. And if you tell yourself that, you have a totally different experience to saying, well, it always goes wrong. I always am getting rejected. Everyone dumps me. You can't trust men. You can't trust women. They're all after. They all have an ulterior motive. Because, again, you're choosing to say the most terrible things. And if you could just know that your words are a blueprint and your mind uses everything at its disposal to make that blueprint real, then we might all succeed better at having a better blueprint.
Yeah, it's like you wouldn't say these horrible things to other people, like your friends. Like, wow, you look really horrible in those jeans. Maybe you should lose a few pounds. You wouldn't say that to your friend.
No.
But you say it to yourself.
Yeah, you wouldn't say to a friend, I don't even know why you're on Tinder. Who's going to go out with you? You've got cellulite. Or no guy in the world would like a single parent. Or no woman's going to date you because you're not wealthy enough. But we say it to ourselves. If we spoke to our friends the way we spoke to ourselves, they wouldn't be our friends. And really, we should be our own best friend and say things like, I'm lovable, I'm significant, I've got a unique skill, I've got something of value to offer the world. Because I promise you, every baby is born believing that they matter, that they're significant, they've got something to offer. And if you shut your baby in a cupboard on the day it's born, it won't just lie there and accept it. It will scream because its belief system is someone's going to come and attend to me because I'm worth it. And, when you're in the womb, it's always 75 degrees. You have 24-hour room service. You're connected to another person. So we're born with that same expectation. And while it's very easy to get small children to doubt themselves, Nobody was born like that. It's also quite easy to reactivate the innate confidence that we're all born with.
So how would you reactivate that?
Oh, that's another. You're very good at asking great questions. Well, again, when people come in and say to me, I've always been insecure, I've never had any confidence, I've always been shy, never been able to talk to people, I go, that's not true. If we went back in time to the day of your birth, what do you think happened? 8 people looked at you, the nurse, the doctor, your parents who will come to visit you. No baby goes, don't look at me, my diaper's leaking, or I've got milk spots. And we all know with babies that when you take them out in the stroller and people come and say, oh, look at you, they kick their little legs and they smile that gummy smile, even if their diaper's leaking, because they have no concept they're not lovable. You say to a little 1-year-old or 2-year-old, for Christmas, they go, a castle, a horse, a swimming pool. They're not greedy, they just are limitless. And so what I would say is go back to the time you were born, the very day. And even if you don't remember it, I promise you were born full of expectation with something to offer. And your first experience was being looked at. And even if you say, well, my parents didn't want me, that's sad, but somebody wanted you, because here you are. There are people who love to have babies that never have them, and other people who appear to not want the babies they have, but you are wanted. The universe puts you here, and it will support you in everything that you do, but you have to develop self-belief, and that's not difficult. Here's a great thing to do. Think of all the praise you would have liked to have had in your life. If you could go back in time and you had an amazing mum, a dad who believed in you, a teacher who thought you were the best student in the class, what would they say? They'd go, wow, you're such a great kid. You're so good at learning. You're so interesting to talk to. I love being around you. Take your pick. Start saying that to yourself, because again, even if it sounds a bit wacky, your mind has no idea that you're saying those words, and it will let them in. So if you think of what you always wanted to hear, you're the favorite, you're great, you're interesting, you're smart, you're talented, you're lovely. If you begin to say that to yourself, it actually has a better effect than hearing it from someone else. It's such a shame we wait so long to make a withholding parent say, I'm proud of you. And sometimes they never do. And we have it within ourselves to say, I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. You've got something great to offer the world, because the mind doesn't question it. It just lets it in.
How is this different, though, from affirmations where you say to yourself, for example, I am intentional with everything I do, or that was actually an affirmation that I had used on myself last year.
I don't like affirmations, because that very affirmation you just gave me, I'm intentional, everything I do, is very abstract. If you understand, the mind loves pictures. It only works in pictures, and it likes pictures that make sense, or words that make a picture. So here's an affirmation. Life is a sunny day where the sun is always shining and the flowers are growing and life's a walk through a park. Well, first of all, that's not true. It isn't like that every day. Or in every day and everywhere I'm getting better and better, or every day my life is perfect. It's all perfect. Yes.
Or I'm a money magnet. I've heard that one a lot.
I'm a goddess. I'm a rock star. Your mind goes, really? Really? Are you really a rock star? Because you seem to share an apartment with 3 other people. And you don't even have a car, and you can't afford Ubers home. So that doesn't sound like a rock star to me. Of course, it's not your mind saying that. It's you. I'm a goddess. Really? But you're wearing clothes out of Target and you're not a goddess. So you have to stop all these affirmations. And I prefer statements of truth. And here's my favorite one, bar none. I'm enough. I'm enough. I'm lovable. I always have been. I always will be. Because that makes a picture. The mind gets that. Or if you say something like, I'm confident and I've got fantastic coping skills. I have phenomenal coping skills and I can cope with stuff. Your mind understands that, but it's a walk in the park and the sun is always shining. I found a lot of affirmations are just too abstract. So let's imagine you've got, irritable bowel disease and you want to get better. Then what you'd say is, my gut is working perfectly. My gut is strong. My gut rhythms are perfect and my immune system is super effective and I have phenomenal health, because it makes a very clear picture. the mind understands what phenomenal health is. I know this to be true because when I work with women who can't conceive, I'm very direct. I say to them something, I put them in hypnosis and I say, your eggs are phenomenal, grade A, super fertile eggs, and your husband's sperm is like a crack military sperm. It swims straight and it gets to that egg, and it perfect sperm breaks through the perfect egg, and you create a perfect embryo that becomes a perfect fetus that grows perfectly, and then you have a perfect birth. Obviously, I put more into it than that. And when they're giving birth, I would never make them a tape going, you can cope with the pain. The pain is not so bad. The contractions don't hurt that much, because they're the words the mind will pick up, pain and hurt. I say that the birth signals, the rushes are amazing, and the more contractions you have, the quicker that baby is floating out of your body into your arms, and the birth is the best day of your life. Because if you make the right pictures, the mind goes, oh, that's what you want? You want a swift, fast birth where you can cope, and when the contractions are stronger, the baby's birth is imminent, and you're so excited, you're elated, you're delighted. You could do this for hours because it's just so wonderful. Makes a better picture than, oh, it doesn't hurt too much, and it's okay, you can cope with the pain, and the pain is only unbearable for a few hours, because we're always giving our mind pictures. But you've got to give it better pictures. If you say, I'm going on stage and it's okay, I won't forget and I won't dry up and I won't go blank, that's the very pictures you make. So you have to flip that over to, when I'm on stage, it's like speaking to my friend and my memory is amazing and I know what to say, and the audience like me and I like them, and I just speak to them because I'm so interested in my subject and I deliver it so well. And I find that one of the things RTT is so good at is getting people to really understand the power of words. I teach all my students that, you have to use powerful words. If you use wishy-washy words, you get wishy-washy results. And I'm working with so many teenagers that are so disempowered, and they go, what if this girl doesn't like me? What if I like this boy and he dumps me? What if I don't have any friends? And I just go, you know what? We're not even going there. We're going to change that to people like me because I'm a great kid. People like me because I'm awesome. And the great thing is that when you say it enough because you believe it, everyone around you will believe it too. We spend so much of our time trying to make other people like us, when in fact all you have to do is really and truly like yourself, and then your world becomes extraordinary. And it's so easy when you know how.
Yeah, and while you were talking about the birth process going so easy and so forth, it occurred to me that my mother, during my birth, it was a very long, painful birth. It took 24 hours, longer than that, I think, before I was finally born. The contractions and all that, it was just hours upon hours upon hours. And I don't know how she did it without having a C-section, but she did. And now, for the first time in my life, at least my conscious mind is connecting with that, thinking, I wonder what the impact was on me.
Yeah, I wonder, because often, I went to someone recently, and his father used to always say to me, you nearly killed your mother. Oh my God, you nearly killed your mother. And of course, people love to share these stories. It was agony. It was unbearable. I don't know how I did it. And, all the baby can think is, I brought pain. I caused people pain. And some people walk around in the world with this belief. My presence hurts people. I cause people pain. And that's why we really shouldn't even describe our birth experience with our babies on our hip. I know when I had my baby, which was amazing and wonderful and extraordinary, especially because I was told I could never have children. And I just decided not to let that in. But I do remember shortly after I had her, in England they have a ward, and you stay on the ward for a couple of days, and all the mothers are in the same ward, and it's all nice, it's all free. And you usually stay there for 4 days. They brought boxes of Kleenex to every bed. I'm like, what's that? They went, oh, that's for the postnatal depression. By day 3, the whole ward is a sea of weeping because, the hormones start to leave your body. And as the hormones leave, you're going to feel postnatal depression. I went, oh, no. I'm actually having postnatal euphoria. That's what I've signed up. I don't want the tissues. And if this ward's going to be received weeping, I should go home early. So I did. And they looked at me like I was crazy. But I used to always say I'm having postnatal euphoria. My baby just causes non-stop joy. And she really did till at least till she was a teenager. Of course, I had my moments with her, but I never bought into that. Oh, my God, it's so tiring and it's exhausting. Because my mum always said to me, babies are easy. They sleep all the time. They're delightful. And, you are what you believe, but we're all programmed. We spend so much time updating our software, and no one says, actually, why don't we update the software in your head? All this stuff you've been fed that isn't true for you, even if it's true for someone else. Why are you believing these beliefs that you were given by someone who had a different experience to you?
Yeah. So it's like those nurses were programming all of those new mothers to end up with postpartum depression.
Absolutely. And they didn't intend to. Nurses are wonderful people. But when doctors say things like, well, you've got depression and you're going to have it for the rest of your life, or like I was told, you'll never be able to carry a baby to full term.
Or you have like 3 months left to live, right? So that's another one. Them giving the future to you of your demise.
And that's a terrible thing because people turn into that. They start to watch the clock. Or, you're going to have this illness for the rest of your life. You're going to get progressively worse. You're always going to be like this. You'll never be able to recover. And, I had 2 extraordinary illnesses, and I was given that kind of diagnosis. And I just thought, no, there's no way I'm going to accept that. And it's a great shame. But teachers do that too. They say to kids, well, you'll never amount to anything. You'll never make it. I mean, my daughter, who's an amazing artist, her teacher said to her, do not apply to a good art school. You'll never get in because your work isn't good enough. And it's like, wow. Some teachers, not all, of course, say terrible things. You shouldn't go to math, or you'll never do any good in sport. It's just not you. Don't apply for that position. You'll never get it. And teachers, parents, doctors, anyone that has an impressionable child and talks to them should be made to be aware that they hear stuff and they believe it.
Yeah. And that could create a lifelong fear or phobia. What is it that you say that babies are born with just 2 fears, I think? What are those 2 fears?
Yeah, the fear of rejection. Well, we're born with 2 needs as a baby. We must find connection and avoid rejection because our need for survival is very linked to being connected rather than rejected. And, of course, years ago, we would die from rejection. We don't really anymore, but we still feel as if we might. And then we hear all these songs saying, I'll die if you leave me. My life is empty without you. And it's very easy to tap into this primitive fear we have that I'll die from rejection because it used to be true and it isn't anymore, but we still feel like it's true. And so we fear rejection. And in fact, I sometimes think that often rejection can be the best thing that ever happened to you. I'm so glad my first ever boyfriend rejected me because if he hadn't, I might have married him and he wasn't right for me. And I'm sure I wasn't right for him. I'm glad I got thrown out of college and fired from my first job. Otherwise, I probably would have still been in that job. And there was something else for me. But it's never what happens. It's your ability to look at it. And that's why I love RTT so much, because RTT starts from an absolute fact. Events do not affect you. But the meaning you put on that event, well, that really affects you. The interpretation of that event affects you. And here's the great news. You can change the interpretation and you can change the meaning at any time at all.
Yeah. Don't you have like a left-hand, right-hand process that helps you to do that?
Yes. Well, RTT is a very replicable process. It's why we're able to teach it. So I'll quickly just tell you what it is. So people come in and they start to talk about their problem. I'm depressed. I can't find love. I can't get promotion. I get these terrible headaches. I can't speak in public. I'm scared of heights. There's a whole gamut of stuff. And I never spend the session talking that much. I just say, okay, tell me how you want to be. And they say, this is what I want. If you could leave with the outcome, what is it? And I'll say, I want to be able to lose weight or have a perfect body or find love or speak in public or just not have a stammer or be confident. And so what I do is go back straight away, count backwards to why. And the mind will always come up with these scenes. And I usually try to get 3 or 4 scenes because it's a bit like being a detective. I'm gathering information and looking at it to make sense of it. But I do that with the client. So after we've got the 4 scenes, we'll do left hand, right hand. Here are these 4 scenes in your left hand. And in the right hand is an image of you today where you can't attract love or maintain love. Look at those 4 scenes and tell me, how could those 4 scenes have led you to where you are now? And they will tell you, oh, yeah, I see. My dad left. My mum had all these different husbands. They all left. She was always in tears. She had one baby with the second husband. They liked it far more than me. And I'm beginning to see now that I got this belief. But what I do in the regression is I say, when they go, I'm 2, and I'm scared. I'm 2 and I'm scared because, and they'll go, because the stepdad is shouting, because my mum is crying because she doesn't have a husband. And I'm thinking, well, she's got me. Aren't I enough? And then we do the left hand, right hand. These scenes on the left, of course, the scene on the right. And the clients are always astounded at how much information they come up with. And then we get rid of it. It's like being a detective finding the cause, and then like a dentist extracting all the toxic stuff and putting people back together again in a much more effective way. And we have some very specific formulas such as role, function, purpose of an illness, dialoguing with the person that hurt them, getting the praise they've always wanted. It works so amazingly, so incredibly. In fact, I was just in Tallinn last week, and this waiter came up and said to me, I really was so close to killing myself. And I came across your I'm Enough talk, and he said, it changed my entire life within a week. I felt so different. And he said, and now here I am. I'm working in this restaurant. I'm working my way up, and I'm really happy. And I love that just changing his thought process was able to give him a whole new world.
Wow, that's amazing. I'm sure you never get tired of hearing that.
Never, never, never. Who could?
Yeah. The I Am Enough program, that's something that you can go through yourself. You don't have to learn hypnosis or hypnotherapy. You're just going through some processes, kind of guided visualizations, or what is that?
Yeah, I've been a therapist for 30 years, and I realized very quickly that all my clients have the same problems, whether they're a movie star or an actor or a painter or someone who runs a little nursery school. They all have these issues, and when clients have what I call a presenting problem, that's never the problem. It's what lies beneath, and what lies beneath is almost always I'm not enough. I've worked with thousands of addicts. I've never met one ever who believe they're enough. And so since the cause of all our issues, hoarding, addictions, binging, obesity, so many things are caused by this feeling that I'm not enough, I figured, well, maybe that's the way to cure it. So I started to work on a program called I'm Enough. It's an 8-week program, and it comes with different recordings, and it really unravels where you ever thought you weren't enough, and then puts you back together again. And all you have to do is listen to it. It's not long. It's not complex. It doesn't require anything much, because that's the other thing with therapy. People think, oh, you have bulimia or depression. That's very complex, so the cure must be complex. No, it doesn't have to be complex at all. What lies behind bulimia and depression is I don't think I'm enough. And actually, its strength is in its simplicity. I've fixed people with the most traumatic illnesses, including the most awful abuse, which is not to denigrate that, but by making them know that they are enough, that it wasn't their fault. So I'm Enough is my favorite saying, because it changes people's lives so profoundly. In fact, I got a letter this morning from someone who said, I adopted 3 girls, pre-teens, and your I'm Enough has done more for them than every psychiatrist, every mental health doctor, and every social service, because it went to the heart of what was wrong with them. They didn't think they're enough, and they acted out. Now they know they're enough. They don't act out, and I'm having a wonderful life with them.
It's amazing. So things like addictions and hoarding and probably even phobias and nightmares, maybe clenching, grinding at night, those could probably be
compulsive behaviors, even, acting out and not being successful, or the people who said, I'm just difficult. It's because you don't feel enough. So there's almost nothing that can't be dramatically changed by believing you're enough. I mean, if we look at some of the most beautiful, talented people in the world, Amy Winehouse, Heath Ledger, Robin Williams, Whitney Houston, George Michael, Michael Jackson, Princess Diana, Marilyn Monroe, there it is, so clear. Not one of those people ever believed they're enough. They were talented, beautiful, gifted, extraordinary. And they all got treated. Amy Winehouse was treated for drug addiction, alcoholism, bulimia, depression. But she was never treated for the real problem, that she didn't think she was good enough.
So do you think that somebody would probably get more benefit working with a RTT-trained therapist, maybe exposing these different beliefs from early childhood in addition to the I Am Enough program? I'm imagining that it would be a whole other level to get that kind of therapy, right?
Yeah, the therapy is amazing. Our graduates are truly getting the most extraordinary results. Really incredible results with people. But if you have, how can I say this? If you suffer with, low moods, or you just feel you're not achieving enough, or you'd like to have more, you'd want to have more love, more success, more outcomes, then I'm Enough would be a great program for you. If you have bulimia or anorexia, then I would certainly say go and see an RTT therapist. You can probably fix that within 1 to 3 sessions. If you have a physical illness, let's say you have irritable bowel or panic attacks or anxiety or claustrophobia or agoraphobia, absolutely go and see one of our incredibly trained therapists who I know can fix that in between 1 to 3 sessions. So if you've got something deep, then by all means go to an RTT therapist. But even having said that, I get letters every week saying, wow, that I'm Enough course just changed my life. I just realized what it was all about. So it's probably worth taking that first because it's so revolutionary, so transformational. I'm always thrilled when I meet people who say, gosh, it was that program that got me through the door to get a promotion. It was that program that got me to date someone different and be married within a year. It was that program that got me pregnant, changed my parenting skills, got rid of this rash that I'd had for 20 years. So, even people are telling me that it's improved their eyesight and their hearing and their digestion. And so it's a wonderful thing. I'm so proud of it. I figure it found me as much as I found it. And, it was really my own patients who taught me what people need and what they want. And I just was lucky enough to put that together because I had an extraordinary client base, from movie stars to Olympic athletes to royalty. And I thought, gosh, they've all got the same problems. And that was able to help me create one product that addressed everyone's problems, but also fixed them at their core.
Yeah, that sounds like the foundational of a program as Louise Hays, You Can Heal Your Life.
Well, it is. I know it's foundational because I've got some schools now, both in San Francisco and England, trying it. I've got more and more schools asking for it. We've got many hospitals and doctors using it, and I'm currently working on a version of it going into the juvenile detention system. Because apparently, if I can get enough young offenders to use this, they believe it's going to change the reoffending rate. So it's such an amazing thing that's happening, how people are really waking up to everything that goes on with us is to do with our thinking, which we're free to change if we only knew how. And I'm Enough is absolutely the how that is changing people. And it's such a wonderful thing to witness.
That's great. So where would people find this program online?
Oh, if you go to marisapeer.com, you can find everything. If you go to rapidtransformationaltherapy.com, you can find everything. So the best bet is to go to marisapeer.com.
Okay.
You can find all our products, including many that we give away free.
And what if you wanted to find a therapist who's trained in RTT?
If you want to find a therapist who's trained in RTT, or indeed if you think maybe you'd like to do this yourself, because it is the most extraordinary career, you cannot possibly change people's lives the way RTT does without changing your own, then simply go to rapidtransformationaltherapy.com, where you can find a list of therapists in your area, and they are extraordinary. But you can also decide if you'd like to possibly train yourself. We do online training. We do live training. We're training this method all over the world because the demand for it is so great. We've just done New York at the College of Medicine in New York, and now we're going to Los Angeles and then to Australia. And next year we're taking it to Miami and Singapore. So it's very exciting. You can come and train with me live. You can also train online, or you can find an amazing therapist who I promise you will change your life.
Amazing. And what if you don't have somebody local to you who's RTT trained? Can you take these sessions or get therapy through Skype or Zoom, like online?
Yes, in fact, I've got a girl I trained in Australia. She's extraordinary. She said that almost all her clients are in Dubai. She doesn't really know why that is. It's a different time zone for her. But Skype therapy works very well. Skype, Zoom, FaceTime. We do have graduates all over the world who see people on Skype. But we have many people train with us because they say, wow, this is such a great life. Not only am I changing people's lives, I do it from my kitchen. I'm a single mom. I never have to miss school drop-off, pick-up, or sports days because I've got so much freedom. And we have a lot of retired people who just see a couple of clients a week but love it. So not only is it amazing for you to see a therapist online, it's also great if you want to be a therapist because there isn't the costs involved in having to run a clinic and pay for all of that. But RTT works incredibly well online, and some of our graduates have never done anything but online sessions, and they love it.
Oh, that's great. And just to reiterate how important this is, when you become so skilled at RTT that you help all these other people, you also inherently help yourself, and you can have all these incredible breakthroughs. And one in particular that I relate to that I heard that you had was you used to be late all the time, and then you discovered what was behind that. Do you want to share that?
Yeah, I was always late for everything. I mean, I missed planes. I could never get, if I had 10 hours to get somewhere, I'd be late. And it caused immense stress. It caused stress in my relationship and at work. And one day when I was training to be a therapist myself, I had this memory of my father was a very eminent, I think you call them principals, we call them head teachers. And I'd always miss the bus to take me to school. And I'd always have to come home and he would have to drive me and he'd be furious. But I never missed the bus that brought me home from school to home. And I realized I did that unconsciously because I was so desperate for his attention, even though he drove me to my school furious. That was wired into me. I obviously said to my mind, I want my dad to notice me. And it said, well, let's just miss the bus every day. He can't help but notice you. And the minute I had that memory, everything changed on a dime. I was never late again. The relief in getting to places on time. It took my friends 2 years to catch up with that because they'd always expect me to be late, so they'd never be there either. And now that never happens. I don't have that racing to airports, driving like a crazy person, changing the clock in the car. So I could go, no, look, it says 10 past. I just stopped all of that. But it was a great lesson to me that really affected. And, you know, I had another interesting experience where I would always have relationships that never worked out. And that was entirely down to me being so difficult, and I was expected them to end. And then I realized that when I was a little girl, my parents let me live with my grandmother for nearly a year. I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. I loved living with her, and I never wanted to go home, but I knew I had to because my dad was a principal. He couldn't let his daughter live with her grandparents. And I was always waiting for that blissful time to end. And in one of my relationships, my boyfriend said, what is wrong with you? Why do you keep doing this, making me jump through hoops? Why are you so dramatic and emotional and crazy? I actually realized, oh, it's because I'm waiting for it to end. He loves me like my grandmother did, but I don't believe that's going to last, so I'm making it end. And in that day, everything changed. Wow. And now I'm blissfully, happily married, and it would never occur to me to go ahead and sabotage it, but I did that for years.
So you were waiting for the other shoe to drop, so to speak, and to be semi in control of that process, you sabotage your own happiness.
Exactly. Yeah. I expected it to go wrong, so I had to turn into the expectation.
Wow.
I just didn't believe that love could last for me. And now I wish I'd known that. I caused myself so much grief and pain and heartache, not to mention other people, because I didn't understand what I now really understand.
Wow. And you don't have to listen to hours of visualizations over courses of years, and you don't have to do affirmations for years or anything. This is all something that can be identified and broken through within a few sessions.
Yeah, actually, there's something very interesting. I'm glad you asked me that. I've noticed that when small children have an experience like love is removed, or they're told they're annoying, or there isn't any money in the house, or the teacher doesn't like them, or they get bullied, they add on this, what I call a tag, which is no one likes me, and it will be like this for the rest of my life. We don't have money. It will always be like this. And I can't find friends, and this will never change. And they always add on those tags. It will be like this forever. It will always be like this. It will be like this for the rest of my life. So what I do is get the client to go, that's not me. And that will never be me ever again, because, and when they say that, it's a massive interruption. It actually breaks the neural pathways. So we have these little pathways that become super highways that goes, it's always going to be like this. It's never going to change. And when you go, no, it's already changed, because that's not me, because I'm not 3. I don't have to live with someone I don't want to live with, and I can be with someone that loves me forever. The superhighways unravel and just go back to being a dirt track and then disappear, because it's called neuroplasticity, getting the neurons in the brain to stop firing off negative beliefs and to fire off positive ones. So uncovering the source and then going, well, that's not me, is actually enough to make negative neurons unravel, but positive ones install themselves and fire off all the time.
So it's very important that the therapist not just connect all the dots for the patient, for the client that they're helping. They have to let the client connect those dots. Well, this is because, or this is why it's going to not ever happen again, this horrible situation that happened when I was 3.
Yeah. Because you see, there's 2 types. There's one type of person who goes, I have no idea why I'm always late and I sabotage every relationship. I guess I'm just messed up and there's no hope for me. The second one will go, I know exactly why I drink. I know exactly why I sabotage my relationships, but I'm powerless to stop myself. So the belief that the understanding is enough is not quite correct. The understanding is transformational, but you have to add to that what I call the interruptions, the changing behavior, the rewiring, the software, installing a different belief system. And it all takes place in the same session. It isn't like, well, let's have 10 sessions looking at the past and another 10 talking about the future. It's like, let's find out why. Now we've got the information. Now let's break it. Let's change it. Let's erase and eradicate those old beliefs and put in incredibly empowering ones. Because I ask all my grads, what do you give your clients? They'll say the same thing, freedom and empowerment. And what a great thing to give people, freedom and empowerment. That's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, amazing. So you have your 10-day training for those who want to become a practitioner of RTT or who just want to become super skilled at that and help others either through therapy or just as a coach or somebody that's out there in the world and they have this amazing skill set. But even just working on yourself by going through that I Am Enough product will make a big difference, it sounds like, for all of our listeners.
It'll probably be the best investment you ever made. You know, people say to me, wow, I wish I found you 20 years ago. It's just the best thing I ever did. And, you know, I used to, it's so nice, get letters almost every day from my own patients, letters, cards, flowers, boxes of candy. But now what I get is letters from my grads going, wow, look at this. One of my grads said someone sent her 100 roses. They're bigger than her head. And so now I get letters from my grads going, look at the letters I got from the clients. And
oh, that's
it's
beautiful.
such an exciting thing where you can liberate someone from depression or anxiety or chronic stress or insomnia. You know, insomnia is a terrible thing. And yet sleep is nature's restore. It's the most natural thing in the world to sleep. It's actually a natural thing, really, not to worry. And it's not natural to sabotage yourself or procrastinate. So it isn't just coaches that train with us. We've had firemen, policemen, single parents, beauty therapists, all kinds of people come to train with us because they then have a career with meaning and purpose.
Yeah. And even just being a parent, I mean, that's one of the most important jobs that you can have. And to have those skills that you can utilize while you're raising these beautiful souls into the world, that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and if you've had a horrible childhood yourself, with the best will in the world, your own gorgeous little squiggly thing is going to bring up all the issues. Like when I was 2, I didn't get that. When I was 5, my mum wasn't kind when I was ill. No one celebrated my birthday. And even though you come at it with like, my kid's going to have everything, it's going to be amazing, a lot of buttons get pushed, your own buttons. And we do a lot of work to stop that so you can be a loving parent to yourself while you're being a loving parent to your own child. And I tell all my grads, in fact, I tell all my students, it's never too late to have a happy childhood. And it's never too late to become a loving parent to yourself, because when you want someone else to come along and meet your needs, then it makes you more needy when you can meet many of your needs yourself. It's such a wonderful feeling. It doesn't mean you don't need people. It means that you can meet many of your needs, and that makes you a more attractive prospect for anyone else anyway.
Yeah. I just love that. That's so quotable. It's never too late to have a happy childhood. I love that.
Yeah, I met someone of 75 who's living that now. Said, I've never been so happy in my entire life, and every day is like being at Disneyland. And I wish I'd done it 40 years ago, but thank God I did it now.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the expression, I think, is best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, but the second best time is today, right?
Yeah. And, you know, people say, but isn't your childhood the best time of your life? Why would nature be so crazy to go, let's make the first bit amazing, and then it's all downhill? I'm having the best time of my life right now. I mean, my last 10 years have been amazing and extraordinary, and I wouldn't go back and have my childhood again. I wouldn't have my teens or my early 20s again. They were so full of angst. But now I'm having a blissful time, and I'm getting to play and adventure and all the things I didn't do when I was a kid because I felt so unhappy and unattractive, and I thought I was stupid.
So I certainly can relate that my time on this earth is much more blissful and impactful and purposeful and powerful now than it was 10 years ago, or certainly 20 or 30 years ago. So life is certainly a gift, and it's getting better and better every day. All right, so let's send our listeners again to the 2 websites that you had mentioned earlier. That's marisapeer.com and rapidtransformationaltherapy.com. And also, we have, of course, the show notes and transcript and everything for this episode all at optimizedgeek.com. So thank you again, Marisa. This was such an amazing, inspiring, wonderful episode, and I hope that our listeners now take action and use it to take their lives to the next level and those around them. So thank you again, Marisa. We'll catch you on the next episode of The Optimized Geek. This is your host, Stephan Spencer, signing off.
Thanks for listening to The Optimized Geek. Your host has been Stephan Spencer, whose own transformation is chronicled in the upcoming book of the same title. Stephan is a 3-time author, professional speaker, and leading expert on SEO and online marketing. Remember, true happiness comes as a result not of outside circumstances, but of your own actions and attitudes. Life happens for us, not to us. Subscribe for groundbreaking insights, inspiration, strategies, technologies, and distinctions that will facilitate your own personal transformation. Simply visit www.optimizedgeek.com and please review us on iTunes. Until next time.